Top five, top five, top five.
Topical back on another video. I'm Strange Wang. He is Nate. They were doing top 5 best uses of color in film. We are doing this because of Insidious, The Red Door. We don't like horror movies. And there's a color in the title. So we thought outside of the door frame. Haha, I got this idea. That was awful.
That was pretty bad.
He'll tell you how the top 5s work, and then we'll get into the video.
Yeah, welcome to this list of top 5 red doors in movies. Which, honestly, you could probably do.
That'd be a shit list.
Anyways, he's going to give his 5 and 4. I'll give my 5 and 4, 3-2, 3-2. Then we trade off number ones. We also have something called the Zemeckis rule, which just means if we both have the same movie on our list, but one person has it 2 spots or higher, we just talk about it once.
Number 5 for Strange Wang is going to be The Wizard of Oz. This one,
On my short list.
again, short list. There's a lot of interjectable number 5s. My 1 through 4 was pretty solid. Like, I was like, I'm stuck with these. And then I had to think about my number 5, and it was like, alright, this movie, this movie, this movie. But Wizard of Oz, when you think of color in film, this is probably the most iconic example of that because of the Technicolor and where it is in history.
Yeah.
Is it a bag of Skittles on film? Yes. However, it works for the movie, it works for the tone.
Sure.
And because of that, it became iconic and timeless.
Yeah.
So I felt like that trumped everything else that was on my side list.
Yeah.
Which is why it's my number 5.
I never really thought about this. It's not on my list, but I still want to throw this out there. As one of the earliest, not the first, but as one of the earliest movies to have color, it is kind of funny that they were just like, we can do color now? How many colors can we fit in one movie?
Yeah.
They were just like, Bob Ross just...
Like, so when I was making this, a little background information, this might be on your list, but I felt the colors was just repeated so much. When you think of color in film and how iconic it is, for me, the first 2 I thought of was Wizard of Oz, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. And because when you go into the factory, it's a totally different world and whatnot.
Yeah.
But purple and orange is like so heavily used throughout the inside of it. That was like, I'll give the nudge to this. Because when do I talk about Wizard of Oz on? The Cinetopical YouTube channel. This is a film we talk about more regularly on the Cinetopical YouTube channel. My number 4, Do the Right Thing.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah.
And it's so simplistic and it blends in. The vibrancy of the buildings with the reds, the yellows, and oranges.
Yeah.
And what's
You waste our film.
They all make so much sense, and they tell a story because this film is set during what? A heat wave. These warm colors almost make you feel hot, and you kind of feel more part of the film as someone who's also walking on the sidewalk. Hopefully not in a Larry Bird jersey. It makes you feel like you're almost a part of this film, in a sense. But it does have a very vibrant color palette, and it just sticks out as like, it feels 80s, but it doesn't feel dated. And Spike Lee's like, yo, I can tell a story through colors. Look at this. And how they compare with the heat wave and everything. I thought that was very simple, but effective. And that's a genius move from Spike Lee.
Yeah. I agree.
That's my number 4.
Yeah, nice. My number 5 is Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
There we go.
Shout out to my wife because I didn't even think about this movie, and then I was telling her what we were filming tonight, and she was like, "What about this?" And I was like, "That's a great choice." I was thinking through it. I feel like the color changes up enough, but
Yeah, in certain areas, yeah, for sure.
But the nod goes to Charlie for that purple shirt because it stands out so much. Everything else in the beginning of the movie is so drab that he stands out in it. But because everything else is so drab, it makes the golden ticket just pop too. And you could have picked any. I feel like they really did take care when they made the golden ticket look the way that it did, because that thing does pop, and it's supposed to, because it's supposed to feel like this unobtainable, like precious thing. And then you get into the factory. The biggest nod obviously goes to the first room where everything is edible, and all that kind of stuff. And I think because I don't think you could make this list without considering the Wizard of Oz. Really, the only reason that I gave the nod to Wonka is because everything in there is edible, and so the fact that you made it that vibrant and it's also food is like just neat to me. So I gave it the nod, but again, it could have gone either way.
Very solid.
There's a ton of movies that could have been my number 5.
That's fair.
And then my number 4, I'm kind of doubling up because they use it the same. But so I basically just took Blade Runner and Blade Runner 2049. And my reasoning is also 2 generally very drab movies, but this futuristic version of LA with all this neon everywhere, and especially in 49 when you get like the hologram ads and all that other kind of stuff, it is just like, it feels so fabricated, but that's the point, is that this futuristic world kind of sucks, and the only way that we can even get people to like try to consider enjoying things is by putting these bright flashy lights in front of them, and they feel out of place but also like perfect at the same time. So in terms of using color to set a tone for a film, I think the use of color in the Blade Runner movies is like worth being in a top 5 for sure, because that color, like those splashes of color combined with the backdrop that they're in, then combined with the music through Blade Runner and Blade Runner 2049, makes them incredibly important to that movie, which is why I think they are one of the best uses of color in film.
Other than the color and the cinematography, my favorite thing about those movies is in the first one, where the one replicant goes, "Wake up, time to die." Such a good fucking line.
He does say that.
Well, those movies suck.
No, they don't. They're excellent.
Yeah, well, that's just like your opinion, man.
Number 3 for Strange Wang. Probably going to be on your list. I know my 2 and my 3 are the ones I was like, these are probably going to be on his list. But my number 3 is going to be Vertigo.
It's actually not.
Wow.
Yeah.
Really?
I saw that pop up on a couple other people's lists.
One of your top 20 favorite movies of all time, Eye in the Corner.
Yeah, I didn't get it.
Really?
So I was like, I really tried to think of this as like best uses of color. So like the color is meaningful and like important to the story. Nothing like super stuck out to me in Vertigo. Okay, the green light. That really sticks out in Vertigo. But nothing else to me was like, they're using this color to evoke this specific emotion, or they're using this for this. The green makes sense because like green obviously associated with like envy or jealousy, but also disgust. So she is jealous for his affection, so she's dressing up like the other version of her, but also disgusted with him at the same time. So like that green makes a lot of sense to me. There just wasn't anything else in Vertigo where I was like, now if I was going to pick, because I thought about doing this for my list, where it was like
pick scenes,
picking a specific scene, and had I done that, this would have been on there, because obviously I doubt this. Well, you've never seen the movie, so no, it's not on your list. The other movie that pops up all the time when you talk about best use of color in film was Schindler's List and the girl in the red jacket.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm not using that because
I find that corny, to be honest with you.
It's just so over talked about at this point. I was like, I'm not putting that on
Like,
the
it feels
list.
very dated.
But if I was going to pick like specific things or specific scenes from movies, then Vertigo would have absolutely been on there. But instead I chose to take a holistic approach. So,
but while we're off topic, personally, I find like when you use one color in a black and white thing, I find it cheesy because like you can do that with like photos and shit.
Yeah.
And like I grew up in the 2000s.
That was a big Instagram trend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's done better because the other colors, the blacks, are so saturated and whatnot. Mm-hmm. The first Sin City, when they do use color, it pops so much better. Like, obviously, I've never seen Schindler's List, but I've seen bits and pieces online, obviously. To me, maybe I watched the movie, I feel different. But that's how I felt when making this list. I was like, I would rather pick that than this, even though I haven't seen it. But Vertigo, to me, I feel like Hitchcock just makes everything else so subtle. Like, when he falls in, he sees her and he falls in love at first sight in the red room. Red passion.
Yeah.
The things they were wearing. There's a ton of red imagery around James Stewart all throughout this film. And green follows Shorty throughout this film as well. And obviously the big scene where it, like... Not the conflict... Because it's so... Again, like, Hitchcock is such a subtle think for yourself director. That, like... When the big conflict, the moment happens in the film where it turns it up to 11, it ramps up, you want to have that stand out, and that beautiful use of green stands out. And you're right, it does overshadow the other uses of color in this film.
Sure.
Which is why it's my number 3. But the simple storytelling with colors... And your two primary colors is red and green. And how they use every different emotion that represents red or green in these characters was impressive in a sense. Because it's like you're following rules. He made one of the greatest movies of all time with handcuffs on. Because he has to follow this color palette and what these emotions mean and provoke in art world history. So to me, it was a no-brainer on my list. And I'm curious to see if you watch it again after talking about it, whether you pick up on it or not.
Well, I will definitely watch Vertigo again multiple times.
But how recent and you remember the conversation is two totally different things.
I probably think about it still.
But I'm curious about what else is on your list, because I thought that was going to be a shoo-in. Number 2 for me is definitely going to be on your list. Part of it's going to definitely be on your list because I'm a cheater. It's my YouTube channel, and I couldn't decide, so I picked both. Asteroid City and the Grand Budapest Hotel.
Grand Budapest is my number 2. Yeah.
Wow. Damn. I thought that was going to be a shoo-in for your number 1. The same director, and there's a lot of things that varies in each film with the color. So I felt like I could put them together. If I broke them up, I would have been stuck with my number 2. And I only wanted to use one. And I was like, fuck it, it's my list. I'm using both. The desert stuff just hits more of the scenery that I like. So I find that area of this country very beautiful and so vibrant how he uses those. But he still plays with his pastels, with the buildings and the wardrobe choices. And again, that helps this film feel vintage, which is dating back. So you have storytelling with it, with his style, and it's just a beautiful film in general.
Well, duh.
On the other hand, you have a very flat film when it comes to Grand Budapest, when you're outside the hotel and everything, because it's usually snowing or it's dark. But when you walk into these hotels, they're so magical. And you really feel the love and understand why this hotel is so important to him. And the gel, that's a flat color palette. It's not like in Miss Anna's favorite movie, Moonrise Kingdom, where it's earth tones and it's meant to be more flat.
Yeah.
These are blacks and grays and some tans.
Mm-hmm.
So when you see them fall through the Mendel's truck and all this pink and blue ribbon, it's perfect, so vibrant.
Yeah.
And when you use the scene of them on the Ferris wheel, the merry-go-round, and Abigail, I just watched this fucking movie. I can't remember her name.
6.5 hours later.
Oh my god, why did you ask me?
Saoirse Ronan's character.
I just thought about it like 2 seconds ago.
When you see Saoirse Ronan's character and how Zero looks at her and all the colors behind her, that's good storytelling. He's in love. He sees a person.
Agatha.
Agatha Christie.
No.
So beautiful, and from my angle and how I view this character, I didn't see that. I'm not in love with her.
Yeah.
Now, I'm from Zero's point of view. I understand how much he loves her, and that's because how he views her.
Yeah.
So Wes Anderson just uses the color.
Mm-hmm.
So it's more important in the Grand Budapest Hotel.
Yeah.
If you made me choose, I would pick Grand Budapest Hotel. But what speaks to me and stuff that I would hang up over my house or my room
Sure.
is more desert oriented. So Asteroid City spoke to me.
Yeah. I think that's fair. Asteroid City is more like tone setting, I feel like, where Grand Budapest is more storytelling.
Yeah.
But yeah, Grand Budapest is my number 2. It's like contrasts for me that you touched on some of them, but like we talked about this recently on another video when we were doing Wes Anderson stuff for Asteroid City. The story that we are getting in Grand Budapest is it's older Zero telling Jude Law's character the story. So we are getting, what we are seeing is his perspective of the story. It's not necessarily exactly what happened. It's how he remembers it. And so you see the hotel in the beginning. It's like before he starts telling the story, it's gray, it's run down, it's lost its color. And then you see it for the first time in Zero's retelling, and that pink is just like, bam. And you feel how important that hotel is. Like, it feels as important to you as it does to him talking about the way it used to be. Like, the purples that him and Gustav are wearing. Like, purple is like a symbol of royalty, right? And it's just like, this is their hotel. Like, it is their palace, and it is big and magical and important. And you talked about the prisons. It's like, even when they're still in the cell and that first Mendel's box comes in, it's just this pink box sitting around all this gray. And you have these rough guys because it's prison and they're gray. And they're just dicing up this beautiful pastry to all eat together. Everything just pops really well. And I mean, anytime Willem Dafoe's on screen, it is just dreadful looking because you're supposed to feel that impending doom. Even like the whole museum chase between him and Jeff Goldblum, it's all toned down and darker because that is how you're supposed to feel. But when you were in that hotel, you were supposed to feel excited. It's supposed to feel special. When you see Saoirse Ronan's character, you are supposed to feel special. So her eyes always pop. There's always pink around her. Even Boy with Apple is like supposed to feel like this big important thing, and so the color on it just pops. So yeah, the feelings that film evokes in me when I watch it through its use in color is why it's number 2 on mine.
And I don't know if we said it to bounce off of that, is that way with every hotel. Bill Murray's hotel.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I don't remember who else had a hotel. He was the biggest actor that had a hotel, but every hotel they call for help, they are very vibrant and pop, just like that.
Yeah.
So I love that. That is my 2, 2.5, and 3.
Nice. So my number 3, I'm not sure. I don't remember if we talked about it or not. I'm still not sure if you've ever seen this movie. My number 3 is Her.
I've seen enough where I get the color palette.
Well, yeah. So
almost very neon-esque.
So seeing clips from it gives you a like a touch at the palette, which is good. But when you watch the movie together, the color makes sense because it's actually shifting throughout the entire movie. And it's like, it's not one of these on the nose things, but if you look up like what colors are associated with what feelings and stuff like that, there's just tons of correlation to that in this movie. Like Arthur changes his shirt pretty consistently to match the mood you're supposed to be in, but then also pretty much all of his surroundings change color to match, like, not exactly, but it's like if he's wearing a blue shirt, pretty much everything around him is some shade of blue. And so it just is like, you are going to feel this.
Yeah.
Which, like, is a little jarring, and it's super manipulative, but for this film, it works really, really well. Because this film is, like, pretty much solely dialogue driven. But then there's also so many parts of it where there's no dialogue. And so it literally is using the color to tell a story and its backdrop. It's like, in a lot of ways, Spike Jonze kind of channeled his inner Wes Anderson a little bit to make this movie.
I guess.
But it works really, really well for me because it is an incredibly emotional movie. And it never talks about color, never points it out. It's just there for you to accept or not accept. And for me, I accept it and it works incredibly well. So that was my number 3. And then Grand Budapest was my number 2.
It's very funny because... what was your number 4? Oh yeah, I know what your number 4 is.
Blade Runner.
Our number 5 was just like color.
Mm-hmm.
Number 4 was how did the scenery make you feel about this world?
Yeah.
With Blade Runner and Do the Right Thing, it really puts you in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Number 3 was color based on emotions.
Yeah.
And number 2, we had the same number 2, basically.
Right.
Here at Sonotopical, we're unfortunately poor. And this money you see on screen, that's CGI. That's not real money. Because again, we're poor. So if you want to click in the ad eye in the corner, that video is monetized and we can make money off it. So please go watch it.
And if you click an ad, we make more money. And if you really want to help, there's the thanks button right there below this video.
But do we have the same number 1? I don't think so.
I doubt it.
Number 1 for me is going to be Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?
I've thought about it.
That vintage dusty look is so beautiful to me. And just gets you in the film. It makes you understand that what you're watching is old and vintage, but also the world doesn't look this way.
Mm-hmm.
And it opens you up to go on this journey of the Odyssey, where when I first watched this film as a little kid, I kind of was like, holy shit, did they turn... it wasn't John Turturro, it was it? Who got turned into a frog? John Turturro got turned into a frog.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So those little things, stuff like that, just like made it so much more believable, because this isn't a film shot like a normal film.
Right.
So it helps you with the disbelief, the enjoyment, and everything, and just sets you on this Homer-esque odyssey to a point where it's most digestible because of the color palette. And it makes it so easy to be invested for me personally. And I just find it beautiful.
Yeah. I really, really like that movie.
It's so good. It's their best movie, in my opinion.
It's debatable.
So my number 1 was always going to be on my list, but it wasn't always my number 1. And then I read an article specifically about like an analysis of the film's use of color.
You read?
And it added a whole new dynamic to this movie, which I already loved. And so my number 1 is in fact La La Land. I've always thought this movie had great use of color regardless. There's a lot of it that I've always picked up on. But I never realized how meticulously Damien Chazelle had chosen the colors for this movie, because they tell you everything. And at first I was like, I feel like when I read the thing, it was from Film School Rejects. And I was like, I feel like this is an over-analysis. And then I started thinking about it and like rewatched a couple scenes. And I was like, gosh dang it, they're freaking right. Like, how did I not see this? So it's like, anytime a person is wearing yellow, something is about to change in the movie.
Okay.
Like, anytime. And with maybe the exception of the opening scene that is like more so just him saying, let me sing you this song about how people come to LA with these big hopes and dreams, and there's a bunch of culture here.
I thought you were talking about when they were flipping each other off.
Well, no, right before that. Like, the opening scene, like the big dance scene when everything stopped on the freeway. The main girl is wearing a yellow dress.
Okay.
Which I guess it is signifying that we are about to change from a big opening musical number to them getting mad at each other. So they bump into each other a couple different times, but the party where they actually like meet and he walks her to her car and they dance together for the first time, she's wearing yellow.
It's right behind you too.
When John Legend meets him at the bar, he is wearing yellow.
Okay.
And there was another scene, but it's like anytime there's about to be a big change in a character's life, someone that has to do with that change is wearing yellow.
That was dope.
It is really dope. Also, I never thought about it, but from the start of the film, how bright the clothes that Mia and Sebastian wears gradually gets less and less bright to the very end where they are wearing black and white respectively. And so it's like, and the palette of everything else changes too, because they have these big hopes and dreams while they're in LA, but then life is slowly wearing them down and they're giving up on them. And so the color palette gets more gray and black and white and shit as the movie goes on, until the end scene when it just smacks you in the face with color again.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's just the tip of the iceberg. I can keep going, but we're almost at 30 minutes. So it's just like,
that's the record of the night, dog.
I already thought this movie was absolutely beautiful, but once I read, and I'll be completely fair, if I went and read an article on uses of color in Vertigo, or picked any movie where I knew there was a bunch of use of color that was made by a director that I know is like very intelligent and cares about things like that, I would probably feel the same way. There's probably no shortage of articles of people analyzing color in movies where I would have learned all this stuff about any different movie, but I didn't. I would read those. I read the article about La La Land, which was already one of my favorite movies, and now is my number one on this list as well.
Well, this, hands down for me personally, is my favorite horror movie list we've done. It's based on it. So let us know in the comment section your 5 favorite uses of color in film, or your favorite or your least favorite. Are we completely wrong about something? Let us know that in the comment section below. Scroll back up, hit the like button, share the video, and subscribe.
Should we do best 5 red doors in movies?
No. I would rather do a ranking of Wes Anderson color palettes before that.